Welcome to Live Labs. This is the preview video for the Modern Application Development with Oracle REST Data Services workshop. My name is Eugenio Galliano and I'm a Senior Product Manager for Oracle Database. Let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is create an autonomous database. After you log into the Oracle Cloud, select Database, Autonomous Database, and Autonomous Data Warehouse. This will put you into the Create Autonomous Database page. Specify a database name and display name and admin password, and leave all the other parameters as displayed. Click Create Autonomous Database. Once the database is created, it will show in green state and as available. We will start by logging in as admin to the Autonomous Data Warehouse that you have previously created. Once that database is created and you're in an Autonomous Database Details page, click on the Tools tab, click Open Database Actions, and log in as a user admin with the password you specified at database creation. From the Database Action menu, select SQL. SQL Developer Web opens on a Worksheet tab. We are now ready to load data into the database. For this task, we will use the Data Loading tab in the SQL Worksheet. Click the Data Loading area, the center of the gray dotted line box. The Upload Data into New Table model will appear. We are going to use some sample data to load data into the database and create a table at the same time. Download the sample data from the link provided in the lab guide. Once on your desktop, drag the file into the Upload Data Drop landing pad. A preview window will show up showing the data to be loaded. Click Next to see the name of the table we're going to create, CSV data, as well as the column and data types of the table. Click Next to preview and finish to load the data. Once the load is done, you will see a row in the Data Loading tab that indicates how many rows were uploaded, if any failed, and the table name. We can take a look at our newly created table and the data in it by using the navigator on the left in the SQL worksheet. Just click the table and select Open from the pop-up menu. In the slider that has come out from the right of the page, we can look at the data definition, triggers, constraints, and even the data itself. To REST enable the table, find the CSV data table on the left navigator, right-click on the table name, and select REST in the pop-up menu, then Enable. The REST Enable Object slider will appear from the right side of the page. Keep the default values, and when ready, click the Enable button in the lower right hand of the slider. We can work with the REST endpoints by using curl commands that the SQL worksheet can provide. Right-click the table name, select REST, then curl command. On the right of the page, we see the curl for the table CSV data site out panel. Okay, let's move on to loading data and creating business objects with REST data services. In the curl slide out we just viewed, we now see the curl for the table CSV data slide out on the right side of the web browser. Left-click the Batch Load side tab. Next, click the copy icon from the Batch Load endpoint. Save this code in the text editor or Norse application. We will be using it in just a bit. We'll be using the Oracle Cloud Shell to interface with our REST-enabled table in the database. From the main Oracle Cloud page, open up a Cloud Shell by clicking the icon next to the bell at the top of the page. The Cloud Shell will open in the lower part of the web browser. On the Cloud Shell, we will download the CSV file we will load the curl to the database. Now that we have the local file, we can load it into the database. Next, modify the curl command you saved a few steps ago with the appropriate information. Follow the steps in the lab guide. Add the write out so we can know exactly how long the data load took. Tell the REST endpoint that this is a post operation. Indicate that we have a CSV file we're loading. Set the headers for the HTTP request and add basic authentication. When the command is finished, you should see that all 2 million or so records were inserted into the table. Back in the SQL worksheet, we can verify the load, copy and paste the select statement, and click the green arrow on top of SQL Dev. Next, we will be adding a function to our database schema to simulate some business logic. Run the function and return a count of all rows that match the input provided to column 2 in the table. Use the PL/SQL procedure provided to test the function. Let's move on to the next lab, where we will REST enable business logic and custom SQL. From our Database Actions menu in the upper left of the page, select REST. Once on the REST page, use the upper tab bar to select Modules. On the Modules page, left-click the Create Module button in the upper right. In the Create Module slider, provide the module name and the base path. Click Create. Once a module is created, we are going to create a template for the new module. Click on Create Template. In the Create Template, enter the URI template and click Create. After the template is created, we need a handler that will contain the SQL statement. Click Create Handler. In the Create Handler source section, copy and paste the SQL from the lab guide and click on Create. Back on the template page, we can try our handler out. Click the Execute button in the source section of the page. After clicking the Execute button, a bind variable pop-up will appear. Enter A1 for the value in the ID field and then click OK on the modal. You will see the results of the query just below the source section. We can try the REST endpoint by clicking the pop-out icon in the template region on top of the page. To REST enable the business logic or PL secret procedure created in the previous lab, click the module com.oracle.livelab.api in the Database Actions breadcrumbs in the upper left of the page. Go through the same steps as before for creating a template. Call the URI template BizLogic. After the template is created, create a handler. Change the method from get to post because we're submitting a value to the REST service. Use the drop-down in the method field to select post. In the source field, enter the SQL in the lab document and click Create. The next step is to create an output parameter so we can return the result. On the bottom of the BizLogic details page, enter the source area, click Create Parameter. Copy the curl command with the added substitution value. Using the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure shell that we've used before, paste and run the curl command and see that the count is returned as the output variable. In the next lab, we will secure our REST endpoints. Security should always be critical in any publicly exposed application. From the Database Actions menu in the upper left of the page, choose REST in the development list. Select the Security tab on top of the page and then select Roles. From the Database Actions menu in the upper left of the page, choose REST in the development list. Select the Security tab on top of the page and then select Roles. On the Roles page, click Create Role button in the upper right of the page. The role definition pop-up will come up. Name the role, click Create. Assign privileges to this role. Using the REST tab bar on top of the page, click Security and select Privileges. On the Privilege page, start by clicking the Create Privilege button in the upper right of the page. In the Label field, we can name the label for this privilege. For the Name field, enter oracle.livelabs.privilege.admin. Click the Roles tab on top of the slider. On the Roles tab, move the role we created to the right side. When the single role has been moved over, click Protected Modules tab on the top of the Create Privilege slider. When done, click Create, then repeat the steps for the OAuth client authorization. You can now see the created OAuth client tile on the OAuth clients page. Before we secure the REST endpoint, we need to get a token to pass to the secured REST service once it's enabled. To get this token, we can click the pop-up menu icon on OAuth title and select Get Bearer Token. The OAuth token model will provide the token text in the current token field. You can use the copy icon command to copy the text. Save it to a text document or notes application because we will need it when calling the secure REST service. The pop-up window also gives us the curl command to get a token if we need to include this in our application. Now that the security has been set up, run the same curl command in the Cloud Shell that we ran before. Notice we're not authorized to use this REST endpoint any longer. To get the REST API working again, we need to add the header command to the curl command with a new value. Please follow the lab notes for doing that. Add the header to your curl command and rerun it on the Cloud Shell. With the appropriate header and security information, the curl command will now return the appropriate output. To learn more, go to the bit.ly on your screen to access this workshop and other workshops to help you develop solutions on Oracle's cloud. Thank you for watching.